Good morning. Let's pick up on CONY and MSTY. This is your weekly update. So there were some transactions in both accounts today. Let's start with CONY. They sold some more 250 synthetics. So they added 425. And since these are in the money, they closed at 256.70, but during the day when they put them on, I think we were a little higher. The good news is 256 has come back down underneath our calls, so the fund managers got kind of lucky here. Talk about that in a minute. So we're doing pretty well in CONY. So we put additional 419 expiration date synthetics, 425, bringing us up to 14,785. So those today, if they were closed out, are worth 11.1 million. So we're setting pretty well on synthetics with a good 3 weeks to go. So the last one we sold, we had to buy the calls for 28 and we sold the puts for 15. So that cost us about 500,000 in cash. And let's go over and look at the March tab. And you see that transaction. But before I do that one, let's talk about the ratio. So yesterday, as I said, it was positive for the weekly call because there was danger of us losing money. We still could today because they didn't take it off the table at $1.88, but likely they'll be able to take it off for a couple dollars or less today. So anyway, coin closed down minus 3.79% at 256.7, and we closed down 1.64% at 28.70. Okay, so we're still up near the highs. I think 30 is the all-time high. So we're looking okay. They sold the 425 calls. A lot of times they do that when they have more money in the fund or they want to add positions. When they go on the synthetics, they'll take the same number and sell a weekly call. Well, in this case, they've got a bunch expiring, so they wanted to add. Now, if they take these off the table, they'll probably sell more today for next week. But they did go out and sell 425, and they got $4.07, and it was out all the way to the 292.50. But remember, that'll have 5 trading days. So today's the last day for this week with Good Friday. But going out to 4 or 5 gives them 5 trading days next week, and technically today because they sold this yesterday. So, you know, that could be dangerous, 13.97, and break even would be 297. And like I said, coin's at 256, and I'll talk about, when I looked at pre-market, it's up in 260, and we've only got about 27 minutes or so when I'm airing this before the market's open. So we got 199,000, bringing our running total to 1.69. Cash positions is a minus. They moved some to the money market. We went up 56,000 here. Let's see what the overall. Yeah, we were down $1 million cash because we had to outlay about 550,000 to put on that synthetic. All right, let's see on the active. So here's a summary of what we have. The key thing today, and you'll see it when I go over holdings, is the 267.50, right? We were in the money. Now we're 4.21% out of the money, although I think the open's going to take us up into the low 260s. So we want to pick up all of that money, and I'll talk about what that can give us. Again, sometimes, and I've mentioned this before to you guys, you know, $1.88 was the closing. We sold that for $7.75, and with 14,000, you know, I might have been tempted to take half the money on. I might have taken 7,000 contracts for $1.88 because now I know I got profit, right? I've got 70%, $1.88 out of 7 something. So I've got 75% that I've earned with a day to go. So let's see if the risk pays off or not. Coin price 257, our IV is 87, so it's not a 145, 146 like Misty. And that's what happens on some of the days coin goes down. Misty was up yesterday, not big. So they're crypto oriented, they're not 100%, right? Coinbase is going to make its money on crypto transactions, and MicroStrategy at, $11 billion holdings of Bitcoin themselves, and Michael Saylor being a spokesperson. So it's, they both play very much to what's going on with Bitcoin, and they're both in the crypto verse, but they trade slightly different, but in general it's an upcycle. Okay, let's go over, we talked about the synthetic. I wanted to mention this again. So they're $11 million in profit, paper profit, but if they were to close that out, they're not going to close it out when they're 419. I suspect the week before that Friday, with a week to go, they're going to be, probably 300 plus, and the puts are going to be, $2. So they'll just take that off the table, and they'll write new ones out further. Let's take a look at our payments. So we're at 615. I think they lost 25,000 shares. Let me look at holdings. Yeah, because they went up yesterday. They had been going down. Misty keeps adding shares, right? So we got to split more money with more people because they're seeing how well this fund did, and they're buying in, right? So they're buying the shares, but we have to split all that cash they've been collecting. It's not exactly the scenario in CONY, right? They've been 1475, something like that. If you look back on this payment history, they were 10 million, they were 14 million shares in January, 14 3/4 in February, they're 14.5. We stand now with March ending as of today's trading at 13.3. So we're not really adding anymore because we haven't been performing. People are jumping in. I mean, we've been performing, we just haven't been performing at the extreme, but nobody has been the way Misty has. So I'm, I'll come out with a guess. The declaration is coming up. That was the title on my update yesterday. I'm thinking we go over $2. I was real disappointed at the last one, where it was $1.66. I really thought it would be $2. So we could be 250, 260. That's what I'm thinking. They're not going to pay 650, and I don't think they're going to pay 3. But if we score this additional money on these 14,000, and we take it off the table, and it never goes past 267.50, and we get 7 or 750 or something of the 775, that could constitute a bigger payment. So I'm really hoping for that. So let me show you that again in the holdings. So here we are. This is the position. I've got it in green because green means money, right? And when we go back to March, we sold 14,360. They expired today. That's the bulk of our expiring calls for today. And let's look, and you'll see the 775 in here. So we took 415 off the table already, and we paid a crazy 1948, right? So these things closed at $1.88. So that's only about 2 million. So we would make the 9 million. If we close this out completely, we're going to make $11 million, right? And that's going to go in the short income on our payments. So all of a sudden, we're going from this amount to profit, right? When you distribute over 13 million, that's not quite 11 million over 13 million shares. It's going to be 80 something, 85 cents. So that turns this into a positive and adds to the 615, and it puts us at 660 or something like that. A little more pressure to move up and have a 260, 270, 280. They've paid it. I think this was the high at 269 back in December. So anyway, I'm rooting for that. You know, the synthetic is doing well, so it doesn't need to blow it out. I'd rather us capture the full 775. So again, on that synthetic, we're 11 ahead. Let's look at our holdings, and you can see where we are. Here's that 11 million. So I put it in yellow. These are our synthetics. I put them next to it. Some of the people, you know, so here's our call, right? So we sell the call. That's unlimited. The higher the synthetic goes, the more value we get in the call. The put has been sold. The most we can ever make is just keep the money that we sold it for and not get put, right? If we get put, it means it's below 250 and we got to pay, right? So the value there is 17.99. As long as it's above 250, that'll go to zero. And so we'll pull that 26 million in. But right now, the delta between 37 million and 26 million is 11 million. So we're setting on a paper profit, right? If this thing runs up to 400, I mentioned that the other day, this is a minimum of 150. When this is 150 and this is zero on 14,000, we're going to make a lot of money if that happens, right? So in my opinion, CONY is a really good buy here, even though it's near its previous high. All right, so enough on CONY. The one final thing I'll say is, so it closed at 28.70, and when you run net assets based on shares and, you know, all the things that constitute the net assets, you know, we're $6 priced over what the NAV versus the value in net assets. Okay, everybody, let's move on to Misty. Okay, so this is all updated and ready. Let's go. So they had 3 transactions. They added 2 synthetics and they added another weekly call. So similar to CONY, obviously different values. So let's take a look at the synthetic. So you see here, they added 22 contracts, but because they're still using the 1700, and I don't blame them, that's smart money, out on 419, it costs them a lot, right? So because that's in the money, $200 of that is just, you know, I assume it was somewhere around 18, 19. You don't know when they do it intraday exactly what the price is, right? But it was mostly in the 1800s and 1900s yesterday. So they had to buy 858,000 worth of contracts for the 22, and they sold the puts for 330. So they could still make, you know, good money. And so with that, we now have 229 total contracts on our synthetics, and those stand at a 5 million paper profit, right? And so if we run up to 2,400, 2,500, 3,000 on Mr. heading into the halving and the 419, we'll have a lot more cash going in there. So let's look at the other call, right? So they did a separate weekly call than just the synthetic, but that covers the synthetic. So let's look at March, and then while we're here, I'll tell you what the trade price. So look at Misty. It hasn't gone down. We've got a 910, a 341. It went down 477. This is just another transaction, but there's no date. Up 21, up 1, up 2. Okay, we beat it over here. We're pretty capped, right? Because the downside of Misty is they're hurting on their weekly call. Not happy with that, but you know, it's no fault of the fund. They went out when they put that on significantly. They went out 18.19 over almost, you know, 18% when they wrote this 1800. They wrote 167 at $47 and 21 at 46. and they did this back on 3/22, right? So it's only a 4-day week. I mean, with 6 days to go, that's pretty reasonable. It's just, you know, with Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and MSTR, it's been running. So I wouldn't mind that they pull back to 1850 or 1800 and these guys were able to take it off the table and then turned around and moved up. I don't know that that's going to happen. But let me show you. So anyway, on this new one, let me cover that. So Misty went up 225 and we went up 0.22, mainly because we're capped, right? Especially on the weekly, it's just killing us. So they got $51.06 by going out to April 5, right? There's no more time left on they would have had a 1-day transaction. So they went to 23.50, 22.45% out of the money. So given a week, that's pretty reasonable. That may be safe. Okay, and they can go to 2401 and break even. I mean, we never want to play this game to break even. All right, so let's look at the active tab. So here is where we stand. We closed at 1919 and we're setting 6.21% out of the money, right? So we're up at 1919 and we sold those things around 47, so we need to have bought it back for $47 to break even. So we're $53 plus a little bit of time premium in the day, and it depends on where it opens up. You know, this is 119 above and a little bit of time premium, so that's 130, and we paid 46. So we sold something we sold something and collected $46, and we have to buy it back at 130. So that's pretty painful. But hey, they win a lot of times. 2 contracts for this same week are out at 2130. We're pretty safe at 11% given 1 day. We own other 4.5s, right? We just added these and we added these. This is a 2350, right? It's 22%. This is another 2130 for 229 in total. So we can't gain any money on this one. And, you know, we've got about $1.39 in share value over the earnings if all of these, we maximize all the calls through next week and make all the possible money. But I really hate to see us lose, especially as we're coming up on declaration on 4/3. Let's take a look at what that did to our payments. So we're now at synthetic is 808, a little over 8 million. Our short call income is actually still up there, you know, but this is where we're going to go down with this if we lose on this, right? We lose on today and have to buy back at 130 or above. That's going to cut all our profit out on that part. But we have $8.90. That's not going to change on this synthetic. The question becomes, I think we went from maybe a $4 or $5 payout. I'm not going to declare it yet. I'll wait and see what happens with the buyback and into next week. We may get the first $3 payment, and that might be it. I see them saving some reserve in the NAV, but let's see what the numbers are. That $3 payment, since no fund has ever paid $3, would still be pretty sweet, but let's see. Okay, let's go over the holding. So on our synthetics, we're up to 229. Again, we've got 5 million in the money because look at where we are. I always put green on here. So we could sell the calls for 8 million, and the puts have declined to where we can buy those back if we did it right now. They won't do that. There's no reason to do that. So we should capture a lot more money, but look at this. 2.48 million. This is based on the close of 1919, right? So you got $13 in premium. So the premium should start declining with 1 day left, but anything over 19 means it's $100 minimum, even if it's at the last minute they buy it. So we really needed to dip down to 1,800 and maybe buy it back for $20, time premium. Hopefully they'd be smart enough to do that. They put on these, right? I mentioned that. So this matched the amount on a weekly that they had in their synthetic. So they bought a call, sold a put, and added 22 from their 207 to get to 229 here. And then they sold a weekly call for 4 or 5, right? So 5 more trading days next week, count today at 6. It's not a big amount of money, but it's still nice to win those. And the fact that it's out at 23.50 at 22.45 is very likely we win on that one. Okay, everybody. Let me know what you like. Let me know what I can do. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for education. This is for fun. Like, subscribe, comment. Let's keep this thing going. I've got some new content around other ways to make money. I want to start covering other funds. So let me know what else I'm missing for you guys. Okay, thanks. Talk to you. Bye.